When you think of Xenoblade, certain characters instantly come to mind, the iconic characters of the series. But behind every iconic character, there's someone that goes unnoticed, yet plays a huge role in the game. Today, I want to highlight some of the most underrated Xenoblade characters across every game. From the ones you might have forgotten, to the ones you didn't even notice, to the ones you didn't realize deserved more love. Starting with Xenoblade 1. Vanguard is seriously underrated. He's not some perfect hero, he's not a villain, he's just a guy. Really, just a guy. The leader of the Colony 9 Defense Force trying to keep everyone from completely losing it, while also losing it at the same time. Vanguard might be an NPC, but he's one of the most iconic in the entire series. He's a guy everyone laughs at, but he'd probably yell at you for it. He's truly unhinged and speaks his mind without a filter. Vanguard might hold down the colony, but Charla holds the team together. Charla is a huge one on this list because she's the least talked about party member in Xenoblade 1. Both in gameplay and personality, she's often misunderstood. People see her moments with Reyn and assume she's moved on too quickly, but really it's more about how she's coping with her pain and trying to hold everything together. She's the mom of the group, holding everyone together and resolving all their little conflicts. Charla lost so much before the story even begins, but instead of shutting down, she turns grief into resolve as the emotional anchor. Even when the others lose focus, she's the voice that brings them back. In the game, she's seen as the healer with the annoying cool-off mechanic. And I'll admit, the cool-offs are really annoying, but they make sense. With the right build, Charla can go from the regular healer to precise shot, unstoppable support. One of the most powerful in the game, especially early on. They don't call her Sharpshooter Charla for nothing. If Charla represents control and precision in battle, Zord represents the absolute opposite of that. Zord is one of those enemies that's absolutely hilarious. He's chaotic, unhinged, yet oddly charming. He balances chaos and comedy perfectly, making every scene with him absolutely unforgettable, and brings a unique flavor to the story that often goes unnoticed. Zord might not be the biggest Xenoblade antagonist, but he's certainly one of the most memorable. Zord may be the storm, but Desiree is the calm sunshine in comparison, connected to him in ways that you may not immediately realize. Desiree is extremely underrated and often completely missed. She may be an NPC, but she has some super deep lore. I won't spoil the surprise, but speak to her super late game to find out. She's a fun and playful member of Colony 9 who loves to tease Shulk. Her playful demeanor to Shulk and deeper significance is the reason why she's one of the most underrated on this list. Xenoblade hides its biggest truths in the most unexpected places. Desiree shows it, but Meyneth defines it. She's one of the most underrated characters in the entire Xenoblade series, and that's partly because she's barely visible in the game. Or is she? You might have not noticed her, but she's quietly everywhere. She's present in the background of almost every single cutscene in Agniratha. Without spoiling, this has a huge significance on the story. Despite having one of the smallest screen times, her presence is felt in almost every moment, influencing what happens next, without being the main focus. Calm, collected, and quietly impactful, Meyneth proves that sometimes the characters you barely see physically are the ones with the biggest impact. Most of the time, Meyneth's body isn't physically here, but her spirit flows through Fiora, my favorite character in the game. Hopeful, determined, and the heart of the story in more ways than people realize. From the very beginning, she's wholesome, optimistic, and warm, which amplifies the emotional impact of her story as a Homs. Her journey from Homs to Mech is one of the most emotional arcs in the series, showing how identity and humanity can endure even when everything changes. I absolutely love using her in combat, both in Homs and Mech form, but Mecha Fiora is absolutely broken. When she returns as Mecha Fiora, she's no longer the same girl. Not just physically, but also in the strength that she carries. She embodies the clash between life and machine, love and memory, showing that even in a new form, her spirit lives on. Fiora's presence quietly shapes the story's biggest themes: compassion, loss, and resilience, without ever needing the spotlight. Her embodiment of Meyneth's spirit shines through all of this, showing that real strength isn't about power, but also about heart. And on to Xenoblade X. You know, Alicia is one of those characters you'd probably walk past 100 times in NLA and not think twice about. You likely first notice her during the Affinity mission, A New Scale on the Block, when you recruit Liesel. At first, she seems like another NPC, but her voice acting is surprisingly strong for a side character. Alicia is determined, hardworking, and one of the most competent engineers you meet in the game. She's the lead engineer at Granada Galactic Group, responsible for the Heartfelt skill, and what really stands out is her dynamic with Liesel. You can instantly tell that they have a strong bond and genuinely care for each other, and it's a bonus that they also get to work together. Alicia's underrated because she's proof of the care and detail that went into building NLA's world and technology. Even the smallest characters have lives and stories that meaningfully shape the world around them, and Alicia is a perfect example of that. Alicia represents the brains behind the skills, but Alexa is the energy. Alexa has an extremely energetic and playful personality. She's obsessed with everything skill related, just like Lynn, earning her the nickname Skill Nut. You can often find her outside the Outfitter's test hangar, tinkering away on one of her beloved skills, caring for them almost like they're people rather than resources. Despite this, she deeply cares about her friends and always wants to keep them safe. Alexa is one of those characters people tend to underestimate both in story and battle. As a Cartesian Eagle, she's one of the most reliable partners you can have, the kind of character that keeps everything running smoothly. I love her charming personality, and in combat, she's a powerhouse. Her balance between offense and defense makes her a calm in the storm of battles that can get hectic real fast. Alexa keeps the skills running, while Hope keeps the people running. Hope often gets forgotten, partly because people overlook the fact that she's playable. She starts off as a mediator, resolving conflicts and helping others, and she even surprises players on the battlefield. Calm and people-oriented, her role in combat is far more valuable than most people give credit for. Hope is absolutely selfless and generous, helping anyone who asks, even when she doubts her own abilities. She never expects a reward, yet she struggles with personal doubt and low self-esteem when she can't help anyone. All of this makes her incredibly underrated. She's extremely selfless and humble about her role on NLA. While Hope quietly supports everyone with her selflessness, Fog reflects that in the same kindness, but in his own way. Fog is such a wholesome sweetheart, often chilling by the water purification plant. He's genuine, loyal, and quiet. He can be a bit awkward and quiet, but he values his time alone, often spacing out or getting lost in thought. He has a really complicated relationship with his older brother Fry, and he's scared of cats, a little forgetful, and prone to some foggy moments. But all of these traits make him feel more human and relatable, a subtle character whose heart and strength are super underrated. Fog brings warmth to every scene. He's proof that even the shy, quiet characters play a big role in the series. While Fog warms the world with his quiet kindness, Yelv captivates it with his quiet mystery. Yelv is one of those characters that instantly sparks curiosity. He shows up out of literally nowhere, acts a little sketchy, and you can never quite tell what he's up to. Maybe he's a spy, maybe he's hiding something. That uncertainty makes him absolutely fascinating. He's quiet, reserved, and tends to open up only to people he respects. But if you dig a little deeper, there's a surprising amount of layers to it. His affinity missions are a perfect example of why he's underrated. I won't spoil it, but they showcase his personality in ways that aren't immediately obvious, with the third mission leaving you on the edge of your seat. His subtle intrigue and quiet complexity are what make him memorable, a character you won't realize you've been missing until you give him attention. Yelv intrigues us with mystery and hidden depth, while Eleonora evolves the world. Eleonora is one of those small, easily overlooked characters in NLA, but she quietly shapes the player's experience in meaningful ways. She's always in front of the mission board at the Blade Concourse, allowing you to upgrade your field skills every time your blade level increases. The way she supports your progression makes her essential. She's underrated because she's a perfect example of the thought and care put into your character's development. She's patient, professional, and quietly influential, a reminder that not every important character needs to be on the front lines. Her presence adds structure, guidance, and subtle depth in your experience in NLA. And players who overlook her miss one of the most understatedly valuable characters in the game. Just like Eleonora, there's another Blade member whose help goes under the radar, and that's Kirsty. Kirsty turns gameplay into a lesson, teaching you about probes and Moranium in a way that no tutorial could ever match. As Frontier Nav's operation manager, she's sharp, capable, and professional, the kind of person who ensures everything runs smoothly behind the scenes. Through her probe professional quests, she teaches you the basics of installing data probes and chaining them together to expand the Frontier Nav grid. In Planetary Pioneer, she explains how most of Primordia's Moranium was gone after the White Whale crashed, and guides the player through installing additional probes to help restore the resources. Kirsty's trailblazing quests make her essential to understand the world's systems, and her calm, rational approach keeps everyone on track. If Kirsty keeps the team grounded with quiet competence, Tatsu keeps them laughing with boundless energy. Ending the X segment with him feels absolutely perfect. He's the no-pawn mascot, the cheesy guy at the heart of all the cooking jokes. The humor, the energy, and the way he interacts with everyone gives Xenoblade X its unique personality. A lot of people don't like him mainly because of the excessive cooking jokes, but honestly, I think those jokes aren't that bad or excessive. Without Tatsu, the game would feel emptier, lacking that lighthearted humor that offsets all the intense moments. While his personality can generally be described as carefree, he occasionally comes off as condescending, a trait that's very common to a lot of no-pawn. He's easily caught up in the moment, forgetful, and his bickering moments with Lyn shows a playful, immature side. But beneath it all, he's surprisingly smart and helps everyone out in many scenarios during the story. Now let's take a look at Xenoblade 2. I'll be skipping non-mandatory blades since they aren't a part of the story, and you could probably argue that all of them are underrated in some way anyways. Starting off with Dromarch because let's be real, he's adorable, but people forget how much he really brings to the story. He's Nia's knight in shining armor, always there to protect and serve her, but he's also more than that. Dromarch carries himself with dignity and elderly wisdom, making him feel like a second dad figure to the group. Alongside Azurda, he provides a lot of guidance to Rex throughout the story, yet he doesn't get as much love as the others. In combat, he's just as dependable, a strong, reliable support blade. And don't forget the small but charming detail. If you play as Nia, you can mount him for faster travel, a subtle touch that really highlights just how close their bond is. Dromarch's strength lies in his heart and intellect, which makes him extremely underrated. While Dromarch guides his friends with loyalty and wisdom, Niall guides his empire with honor and courage. Niall is one of the most underrated characters in Xenoblade. He may not play a huge role on the surface, but his presence is meaningful. Despite his young age, he carries the weight of being emperor with a remarkable composure, showing that true leadership isn't just about power, but also courage. As Meraig's cousin, he shares her steadiness, but also brings a calmer, more approachable side that balances out her intensity. He doesn't need the spotlight to stand out, and his moments of quiet bravery speaks volumes. And of course, when you think of Niall, you can't forget his loyal blade, Aegeon. Niall's blade, later passed down to Meraig, is often overlooked just because he plays a small part in the story. At first glance, he may seem like a typical blade, especially since he has a color scheme of a common blade, but he's much more than that. Aegeon embodies wisdom, reliability, and quiet strength passed down to the drivers of the Ardanian royalty family. These traits also make him very valuable in battle. His understated presence is a reminder that even the most unassuming companions have a profound impact, both in combat and shaping the people they serve. He represents quiet wisdom, while King Eulogimenus embodies strength through commanding leadership. King Eulogimenus, also known as Zeke's dad, is an interesting and endearing character. He's strong, fierce, and commanding, with a presence that immediately silences any room. His tough love dynamic with Zeke brings out so much of Zeke's character growth and backstory. Even in his strictest moments, you can see how much he truly cares for those under his command, especially Zeke. Despite being intimidating, he's a great leader, one who truly earns the respect of those around him. He's proof that tough, intimidating characters can still have a heart and be genuinely likable, and that's what makes him underrated. While Eulogimenus leads with authority, Mikhail shakes things up with chaos and charm. Mikhail is a seriously hilarious character with a great sense of humor, charming looks, and a lot of charisma. He's clumsy, goofy, and often distracted, but don't let that fool you. He's extremely capable in battle and easily one of the most entertaining villains in the series. Beneath all the jokes, he's powerful, passionate, and has a surprisingly complex backstory, showcasing that his humor is masking the pain. He's a perfect example that even the most playful characters have deep struggles. Every scene with him is pure gold. He's chaos personified, and that chaos is perfectly balanced by his counterpart, Patroka. Sharp, serious, and always focused on the mission. She's got that spicy, don't mess with me villain energy, but beneath it, she's actually super emotional and very open with her feelings. Her intensity and emotions make her stand out, and that's why she's so underrated. People see her temper before they see the emotions behind it, the frustration and the passion. She's proof that even the toughest hot-headed characters can have a softer side below. Patroka's balance of fire and emotion makes her interactions with Mikhail and the others feel more dynamic. And now on to Xenoblade 3. Bolaris carries the kind of strength that rarely asks to be seen. He's like that guy in your school, the one who clearly cares about you but never quite says it. The one who lingers just enough to help you carry the weight of a bad day without ever asking for anything back. I like to think that Bolaris quietly keeps all the cogs turning. He's the calm between storms, the voice that anchors you when you start to lose your way. His presence might not command the field, but it gives purpose. A reminder that even the brightest lights need someone to keep them burning. Every bird needs its wings to fly, and some people are better at just being the wind. It might not be seen, but its influence is always felt. Where Bolaris steadies, Juniper drifts. Juniper doesn't command the wind, they move with it. Elusive, distant, and quietly afraid of what it means to stay still. Redesigned, detached. They tell themselves it's acceptance, but beneath that calm lies fear. The fear of leading, of failing, of caring too deeply. Yet there's a quiet beauty in how they exist. Juniper represents how we can't learn detachment without first learning to love. You can't release something you've never held close. Their quiet presence lingers like the wind itself. Gentle, unseen, but impossible to forget. If Juniper flows through life with quiet restraint, Isert anchors it with quiet strength. Isert is someone who knows what it means to hold on and to lose. Like all of us, where others guard their hearts, he leads with his open. He leads not through distance, but through vulnerability. To speak his mind, to admit anger, to grieve, that's courage in its purest form. Most people often hide in our shadows, but Isert doesn't. He carries his pain like a banner, not to glorify it, but to remind his people that strength isn't the absence of weakness, it's the honesty to express it. That's where Isert is still the pride and joy of Colony Lambda, not because he's flawless, but because he leads with empathy, showing that true strength isn't the absence of weakness, but the courage to face it, and that real leadership is built on openness. Where Isert shows us the power of honesty in leadership, Shania reminds us how quickly things can go south without it. Shania is often misunderstood, easy to label as selfish or weak, but sometimes we forget how much of our stability comes from the invisible scaffolding of love in our early years. On the inside is someone shaped by the gaps in her early life. The love she didn't see, the support she didn't have. Having parents who didn't believe in you can change everything. Growing up without that can really twist the way you see the world. How can you recognize love if you've never seen it in others? Shania has a flower in her, determined to make something of herself, and all it takes is being seen, being spoken to gently, to finally bloom. Things outside of our control, meeting the right people, hearing the right words can sometimes make all the difference. Shania proves that even those who struggle to recognize love can grow to become its strongest bearers, and with the right guidance, encouragement, or simple recognition, everything can change. And Yorin feels like a mirror to that. On the surface, he's quiet, reserved, and maybe even hesitant, but underneath, he's searching for the same thing we all are: love, approval, and belonging. He teaches us that the permission to live authentically doesn't come from others. It comes from letting yourself be known. But for that to happen, we have to stop hiding our quirks. Stop sanding down the edges that really make us, us. Maybe we need to sharpen those edges to see who keeps walking with us. People can only see you as much as you let them, after all. His story is subtle but powerful. Yorin reminds us that resilience isn't just about surviving challenges, it's about trusting yourself enough to be seen, and trusting the right people enough to let them walk beside you. Yorin teaches us that vulnerability and connection are a choice. Nail, on the other hand, shows us what it means to walk boldly toward a vision, even when the path is uncertain. Nail is driven by purpose and conviction. She moves with a quiet intensity, the kind of person whose ambition isn't about personal glory, but about shaping a better tomorrow. She would walk that perilous path if given the chance. She's the kind of person who'd risk everything for a better tomorrow, the kind who truly believes in the greater good. Her courage comes not from fearlessness, but from the willingness to carry the weight of responsibility, to take risks where other people would hesitate. She reminds us that true leadership is a pursuit of what matters, even when no one's watching. But ambition has a cost, doesn't it? And I feel Alexandria understands her. Alexandria is decisive, focused, and unafraid to do what needs to be done. Where Nail dreams, she acts, sometimes with a relentlessness that can feel overwhelming, but always with a clear sense of purpose. She understands that meaningful change rarely comes from waiting or wishing. It comes from rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands dirty to really make a difference in this world. She shows that courage and action often go hand in hand. That's why Colony Iota feels different. It's not ruled by tradition, but by the quiet defiance of someone who refuses to follow the script. Xeon, on the other hand, clings to the script. He lives by rules, honor, discipline, the structure that keeps chaos at bay. He's someone who finds comfort in order, who trusts that following the path will keep him and those around him safe. But rules, like armor, can be heavy. They protect, but they can also weigh you down. Xeon reminds us that true strength isn't in rigid obedience, but in knowing when to bend without breaking, because if you can't bend under pressure, one day you'll break. Sena is one of the most underrated members of the party, quiet, reflective, and often overlooked. She teaches everyone that strength isn't always measured in action or words. Her courage is the kind that grows in silence, in moments where no one is watching, and quietly steers a group through challenges without needing any recognition. She's someone who's unsure, hesitant, and sometimes second-guesses herself, but that only makes her more human and more relatable. She doesn't lack strength, she just lacks a mirror. But does she? I don't think so. If we live by others' reflection, we'll never get to see our own face. Following through someone else's footsteps might keep you safe from all the traps and cliffs, from falling and failing, but it also means you'll never explore uncharted territory. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the destination doesn't matter if the path isn't yours in the first place. Ashera, no, not that one, carries the past like a scar, smiling through it, laughing even, but never quite letting go. She shows us that our joys, our regrets, our pain, they all ripple outward, touching others in ways that we don't always notice. We all have those memories, some good and some bad. She's a reminder that strength isn't just about endurance. It's about carrying yourself with grace, even when the past threatens to weigh you down. Sometimes the bad ones sour the rest, like a single rotten apple in a barrel. But Ashera reminds me that those apples don't exist in isolation. Nothing does. Our pain, our choices, our joys, they all ripple outward. We don't suffer alone, even when it feels that way. And maybe that's what Xenoblade 3 is really about. Not just about connection, but acceptance. And all these characters perfectly frame that. Seeing people not as who we want them to be, but as they truly are. And that's why these characters deserve more love. When we think of Xenoblade, remember, it's not just about the mainstream characters, but it's also about all the other smaller characters that really make Xenoblade, Xenoblade. And finally, a little reminder that some of the best moments come from the most unexpected places. I won't forget you. Until next time, see ya!